Serhii Pozniak is a Ukrainian entrepreneur and financier, a veteran and the founder of innovative projects supporting the military and veterans, such as FinStream and Cronvest. He also initiated the issuance of veteran bonds and heads the Association of ALLATRA Veteran Entrepreneurs, uniting professionals who have served their country and are now building its economic future. Serhii is actively involved in the civic movement Manifesto 42, promoting ideas of responsibility, civic engagement, and societal development. His work is an example of how military experience and an entrepreneurial mindset can come together to drive positive change in society and economy.
Welcome to ALLATRA TV. Today, we have a guest who combines business leadership, experience in the Defense Forces service, and active civic engagement. Mr. Serhii, thank you so much for finding the time to meet with us today. In this interview, we'd like to talk more about you, about your entrepreneurial work, veteranship, and why it is so important. We really thank you.
Thank you, too, for addressing such important issues, especially presenting them to the international community. It's very important that the entire world knows our strengths, understands where we need help, and hears the truth about Ukraine, about its life and its future.
Indeed, you're doing so much for Ukraine, and I would even say, for the international community as well. Tell us, please, where do you find strength and so much energy?
First of all, I don't really have any other choice. Maybe it's with God's help. The Lord gives me strength. And of course, my family does. I have a big family. I have 4 children. My wife, Natasha, is a saint. She puts up with all my adventures, with my lost limbs, my trips to the battlefield, my absences. And she keeps the family together, guarding our hearth and home. These are my sources of strength. But honestly, it's very hard. It's very hard when you're a veteran, a serviceman, and also an entrepreneur. Recently in Dnipro, there were hearings in the parliament about a draft law. They said that when a veteran comes back from war, he should have 2 months to rest and get some rehab at a sanatorium. I then thought, it's not even an option for me. When I come back, well, like all veteran entrepreneurs, I'm a businessman. I have a ton of obligations I need to fulfill. So when I come back, I immediately jump from one war into another, from the battlefield to the economic front. Many people boast they are holding the front. But the truth is, after coming back from the front line, we still have to hold another one. And for that, we need strength.
What does Ukraine mean to you in general? And what does it mean to you personally to be a patriot of Ukraine?
Ukraine is everything to me, you see. Everything I have in my life, from life itself to my business, my family, and my work. That's all Ukraine. I gained it all on this land. My homeland gave me everything. No matter how difficult or easy the path might have been, everything I have didn't come from outside. Only my veteran business is what I started jointly with Americans, and that's already a good thing.
And what does it mean to you to be a patriot of Ukraine?
To be a patriot? For me, for example, it means being ready to give your life for your homeland, for preservation of freedom on your land, for your family. Patriotism isn't immediately something huge. It begins with small things. First, you love your Ukrainian mother. Then you love your Ukrainian brothers and sisters. Then your family. Then your city, your school, and then you come to love your homeland. And for all of that, For all of the values your native land holds, you're willing to stand. If necessary, you must be ready to even give your life.
I'd like to express our deep gratitude for the fact that you defend Ukraine and do so much for it. This is extremely important. And it's very important not to give up. You're actually an example of a person who truly inspires. Listening to you, we definitely feel your inner stance. So thank you very much for inspiring others and truly doing so much for the country.
You know, people often ask me, why are you still at the front line after being wounded? You have so much stuff to do, and yet you're always in a good mood, and you always smile. Even when I was carried out of the Serhii forest, I was smiling. So I tell them, I have a life hack. I always get up on the right foot. I don't have a chance to get up on the wrong one. I'm always in a good mood precisely because I went to war and got this injury.
I get your sense of humor. And thank you so much for not losing it. I'm sure it's impossible to manage without humor, right?
You cannot manage without humor. We often joke with Masi Nayem, who lost his eye in the war. When we meet under fire, he would say, "Oh, Serhii, don't drag it out, hurry up, put your best foot forward." And I would reply, "You just make sure you keep both eyes open, and everything will be fine." So you see, you cannot get by without humor.
Thank you so much. One really understands how much inner strength it takes.
It does.
Not giving up, joking, and moving forward.
Cracking dark jokes and moving forward with all the feet you have.
Please tell us about the Manifesto 42 initiative. How did this idea come about? And what does the principle, an attack on one is an attack on all, mean in practice?
To be honest, the idea didn't come from an easy life. The unlawful pressure from law enforcement was just off the charts, and something had to be done. Business decided to push back, and our Association of Veteran Entrepreneurs became the core of the resistance. Leading business associations in Ukraine came together. The Federation of Employers, the CEO Club, the Association of Veteran Entrepreneurs, and the Anti-Raider Union. We united and decided simply to throw light on such cases and bring them out into the open. Fortunately, democratic values work in our country, and democracy itself operates. It does work despite anything, so our efforts started to have an effect. We even developed very constructive communication with the Prosecutor General's office, at the deputy level and with the Prosecutor General himself, back when it was costing. Then law enforcement started to realize that we can fight back, and quite effectively. A certain dialogue began. But at that time, those were almost the very first steps of the business community standing up from a position of strength against unlawful actions by law enforcement. You even cannot really call those people law enforcement in such cases. There are a lot of wonderful people in law enforcement, and many of them are at the front line. However, there have been many bad incidents, and for some reason, even more during wartime. So we had to unite and resist those actions.
Here's the idea of an attack on one is an attack on all.
It's basically NATO's fifth article. We decided that an attack against any participant among the 42 signatories. By the way, do you know why it is called Manifesto 42? It's because it is Article 42 of our Constitution that guarantees freedom of entrepreneurial activity. That's why the name is Manifesto 42. And it just so happened that it was signed on Constitution Day by exactly 42 participants. Those were the first businesses, the first signatories of the manifesto. On that first day, 42 companies came together, signed it, and those 42 became the first team that started resisting the unlawful pressure. You can really see the leading role of veteran entrepreneurship in this case. Whenever there are acute issues in society or situations where a fight is needed, veteran entrepreneurs are on the front line, at the zero line, so to speak. Thanks to our involvement, many amendments were made to laws, many cases were reviewed, and cooperation with the Prosecutor General's office took shape. At some point, even people in the Prosecutor General's office joked, Pozniak is basically the watchdog of the Prosecutor General's office on behalf of the business community. At that time, I visited the Prosecutor General's office almost every day on a prosthetic leg. I was in rehab then, because there were lots of cases of pressure on businesses. Fortunately, our ultimate goal is for Manifesto 42 to no longer be needed. We've managed to minimize the problem of pressure, and now we mostly keep things under control.
What does it mean for you to be a veteran and keep serving during the current full-scale war?
It's very difficult to be a veteran. Neither the government nor society is ready for even such a huge number of veterans as there are now. Now we already have about 1,600,000 registered participants in military operations in the register. This number includes those who started during the anti-terrorist operation. It doesn't include those who are yet to return. It doesn't include families, displaced people, and others. These are all people who will have combat experience. According to forecasts of the Ministry of Veteran Affairs, we expect 5 to 6 million participants in military operations. Are we ready for that? Definitely not. For instance, I'm very deep in the topic of veteran entrepreneurship. By the way, entrepreneurs are the most numerous category among all employment categories on the front. Among active military personnel who are in the trenches, entrepreneurs are the most numerous. There is no one else in majority, only entrepreneurs are fighting. They have something to fight for. And so society says to an entrepreneur, now you're not an entrepreneur, now you're a soldier. Yet the entrepreneur as a soldier has done his job. He was killing people. He was torn off there. His legs and arms were cut off. He was burned with fire, pricked in hospitals, or cut into pieces. I know it's very painful. I know it all from my own experience. It's not even someone told me, but I experienced it myself. Society earlier said, if you come back, we'll make you an entrepreneur again. A soldier who used to be an entrepreneur has done his work for society, but society says, no, it's not really like that. When you come back, we'll give preference to civilian companies. If you want to take a loan, we won't give it to you. If you expect some kind of support, you won't get it because you're a veteran. Because you, an entrepreneur, are back here, but we don't see you as someone who can run your business like before. So we won't give you any support. We'll support civilian companies, while you will turn into social garbage. That's the kind of attitude society has. Maybe it's such a way to go. But it's very dangerous because no one has returned from the service yet. But there are certain contradictions already. There is already tension and differentiation even at the business level. There is a concept of civilian business and military business. That's why we are working on this. It's bad when there's this kind of boundary. We're working to ensure that this boundary is eliminated and that society finally gets involved and realizes that the term reintegration of veterans into society no longer has effect because we'll have such a huge number of military personnel, people with combat experience, that, on the contrary, society should be reintegrated into veterans. It is society that needs to be prepared for a large number of people with combat experience, and it is society that must return. The least they can do is get veterans back to where they were taken from. You took a man and said, go fight. When you come back, everything will be great. You'll be an entrepreneur again. He must be economically independent and attractive. After all, we have another story with their spouse abroad that may also return. But who will they return to? to a man who doesn't stand a chance? So we have no chance? Then what are we fighting for? We will either flee or fight for our rights, but inside the country. And who needs it?
That's for sure. What would you like to tell veterans, entrepreneurs in general, and everyone who wants to support Ukraine, especially now both economic recovery and strengthening of public institutions of democracy are very important? What would be your recommendations?
I recommend that veterans unite and find common ground. Regardless of whether they are left, right, green, orange, red, or some other kind. Veterans should unite. They have a very clear friend or foe indicator. They were at war. They fought. That's the first thing. And secondly, posers should be removed. We have so many people who, I don't know where they fought and where they were. They keep putting patches and military uniforms on themselves. They say, brothers, I'm a veteran. And they are earning political credits, monetizing themselves somehow. When I was burning in armored cars at Pokrovsk, I saw they already took up positions, cut quotas for themselves, and were actively rising up the hierarchical ladder, while we were burning at the front line. Should these people be included? I mean, we must unite and remove such posing veterans, so to say. We must figure out who is who's a real fighter and who's not, and identify the true ones.
What would you tell civilians?
I would tell civilians that they should support veteran entrepreneurship. We have a cool project called Veteran Bonds. I would say that veterans be treated in the same way as civilians. A veteran isn't a mournful figure, but a heroic one. He shouldn't be pitied, but should be supported. If you support a veteran, understand them, and somehow delve into a context of veteran life and veteran entrepreneurship in particular, you'll come to know how to cooperate fruitfully with them. In fact, veterans have unsurpassed skills. They've gone through such ordeals that they can work overtime easily. They don't claim any days off. They can work overtime or do anything else because there are business tasks. It's like a combat mission. There are the advantages veterans can offer. We must use them, and we must give them preferences. For example, there are two companies, my company, a veteran company, and another company from a financial segment, a civilian one, and these two companies are considered for funding. In one respected financial institution, its head told me, looking straight into my eyes, "Serhii, you know, we won't be able to explain to our foreign management that we didn't take into account that you're a veteran, a military man, that everything is fine with you, and you'll be able to carry out financial and economic activities properly. Therefore, we will fund civilian companies." So, now my competitor gets $3 million in funding, and I don't get anything. How can I really compete with him? I come back from war, and they tell me, "Friend, you'll get nothing because he's better." As for the fact that you fought there for your competitor, it doesn't matter. Yet, I have my own military advantages. He has a civilian advantage. And what is my advantage? I have 131 confirmed successful sniper shots. So what advantages should I use? Many people actually think this way. So what will be the outcome? This issue needs to be promptly resolved. And we need to understand what to do about it all. In fact, quite a lot has already been messed up. When you come to a bank officers say, "There is money, but we won't give it to you." Why? Because you're a veteran. Objectively, your business has a stable financial model, a sustainable business model, and prospects, but you don't meet the requirements. That's it. Goodbye. But when my civilian competitor comes in, he easily gets a loan. While I was away, he went abroad, established contacts, learned English, was engaged in exempting his employees from conscription, and for some reason, he himself is exempted. Although we're from the same sector, he's exempted, while I'm not. And this injustice already raises questions. I already have questions. My brothers already have questions, and I can assure you that we'll be solving them. All the countries that fought, all successful countries, have business elite and political elite. And it all grew out of the veteran community. Let's just look at the experience of the United States. Both Bushes fought. One of them even served the National Guard. He's my brother in arms. Churchill was a military man. Even Robert Kiyosaki fought in Vietnam. Reagan fought. These are all the US and UK experiences. In Israel, military service is a must. All successful countries rely on veteranship from which those sprouts grow into business and political elites. In the United States, 30% of people listed in Forbes are West Point graduates. I mean, American Forbes. However, for some reason, in Ukraine, I somehow want to say, as always, we follow a strange way that is different from successful. Why? Not clear. But we must adopt this experience, and all civilian companies have to understand that they need to support the military. We can thus cope with two issues. Issue number one, we can support the economy. The military are able to work hard until all economic indicators are met. And secondly, we can involve these people in real work. And they would engage in restoring Ukraine instead of restoring justice with captured weapons in their hands. They do what they should and what they know how to do. They protect others again. If you reject them saying, friends, go and find something to do for yourselves and survive as you can. You know, it's like an old song. Hobble slowly, your legs will heal, and you'll somehow live. But in this case, it won't work. There'll be a conflict. We must prevent this conflict. Therefore, it's very important that you cover these issues and we discuss them. I hope this will lead to some kind of public discussion, and in such a dialogue, solutions will be found. I strongly hope so.
Serhii, if you imagine that your children will live in the Ukraine of your dreams 20 years from now, what kind of Ukraine will it be?
Honest Ukraine, with a very strong army that we'll need, given such a neighbor. And you know, it's a Ukraine for Ukrainians, where there is no corruption, where development is welcome and ideas are welcome, like in the States, where people's initiatives, the initiatives of my children, are supported, and they are given a chance to try, no matter what they come up with, to implement their Ukrainian dream. It's a country of implemented Ukrainian dreams of our children.
I fully support you. And this vision resonates very, very much with me. Let's hope so. And I believe everything depends on us. And certainly on the international community. And in general, on our unity. We're very happy to meet and talk with you, to learn more about what you care for, what you live by, and more about veterans. Even if we have some questions, it's very good to raise, discuss, and solve them, as you said. Let Ukraine be very strong. And may our democratic and civic institutions continue operating. Indeed, we really want to see Ukraine as you just described it.
Thank you very much. We'll do everything we can for that. First of all, we'll defeat Russia in this war.
Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to heroes.